I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, but here I am, typing this out because I need to get it off my chest and maybe, just maybe, figure out what the hell went wrong. My name's Jake and I've been with my wife Amanda for almost 10 years. We got married pretty young and for a long time I thought we had a good thing going. She was the kind of woman who seemed to have her act together, confident, sharp, and always able to keep her cool. Or so I thought. Our relationship wasn't perfect, but I never doubted her loyalty, at least not until about 2 weeks ago. It started with little things. She'd be more distant, snapping at me over small stuff, canceling plans last minute, and always claiming she was working late or busy with her job. She's a high-powered executive, so I just chalked it up to her being stressed or overwhelmed. But deep down, I guess I knew something was off. I'd catch her glancing at her phone a lot more than usual, hiding it when I tried to look over her shoulder. She'd always make some excuse. It's just work emails. Or, I hate how paranoid you are. That sort of thing. She'd be bitchy about it too, throwing out snarky comments whenever I'd ask her about her phone, saying I was insecure or overreacting. I didn't want to believe it, but I started noticing other signs. Her phone would ping at odd hours, and she'd quickly silence it or hide the screen. She'd also seem more interested in her phone than in me when we were together. I'd catch her texting someone late at night or exchanging emojis I didn't recognize. The worst part, I could feel the distance growing. We'd sit together watching a movie and she'd be scrolling through her phone, not even pretending to pay attention anymore. When I tried to talk to her about how I felt, she'd brush it off with a sarcastic comment or a dismissive shrug. "You're overthinking, Jake," she'd say. "You're just jealous because I'm busy with work." That's what I kept telling myself. Maybe I was just paranoid. Maybe I was imagining it all. Then 2 nights before our anniversary, I decided to check her phone when she went to the bathroom. Honestly, I was feeling insecure and yeah, maybe a little jealous, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. I took her phone, unlocked it with her fingerprint, which she'd never been careful about hiding, and started scrolling. I found a string of messages, flirtatious, playful, and downright inappropriate. It was with her boss, Mark. And the texts, they weren't just friendly banter. They were loaded with insinuations, teasing each other about meeting up, bragging about their sex life and plans for more fun after work. I couldn't believe it. My heart just sank. I mean, I knew women could be like that sometimes, but seeing it in writing, seeing her openly talking about cheating on me like that, it was like my world shattered in that moment. I felt this mix of pure rage and despair rising inside me. I wanted to throw the damn phone against the wall or scream at her, but I just sat there, frozen, staring at her messages. I never thought Amanda, the woman I'd married, the woman I'd trusted with my life, would do something like this. After I saw those messages, I didn't sleep that night. I kept going over everything in my head, trying to convince myself I must have misunderstood, that maybe it was just harmless banter, that I was overreacting. But I knew she'd been lying to me all along. That working late excuse, it was bullshit. She was cheating on me with my best friend, Mark, and the worst part, I still wasn't sure what to do next. Do I confront her straight away? Do I gather more evidence? Do I just walk away? Everything felt like a giant lie, and I was drowning in a mix of betrayal and heartbreak. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind kept circling back to those texts. I couldn't get the image of Amanda's smug, flirtatious messages out of my head. It was like a punch to the gut every time I thought about it. I kept asking myself how she could do this to me, how she could betray everything we'd built together. We had our problems, sure, but I never thought she'd cheat, especially not with my best friend. That felt like a knife twisting deeper every second. I decided I couldn't keep this to myself anymore. I needed answers. And I needed them now. I arranged to meet Mark at a bar downtown after work. I didn't want to do this at home, not yet. I wanted to see if I could get the truth out of him face to face. It was risky, but I couldn't just sit there stewing in my own anger and heartbreak. I had to know how long this had been going on, how deep it ran, and what their plans might have been. The meeting was tense from the start. Mark looked nervous, probably knowing I'd seen the texts. I didn't waste any time. I laid it out plain and simple. I knew about the messages and I wanted to know how long they'd been sneaking around, what they'd done and why. Mark tried to deny it at first, talking about how it was just a flirt, that it meant nothing, and how Amanda's stressed and she's not herself. I could see through it all. His eyes kept darting around and he was trying to craft some kind of excuse, some justification. But I wasn't buying it. I told him that I wasn't interested in their excuses, only the truth. Then, without warning, Mark admitted it. Yeah, they'd been seeing each other for months. Said they'd been hiding it because Amanda needed someone who actually cared, and that she'd told him I was boring and distant. Hearing that hit me like a punch, but I tried to stay calm. Inside, I was raging, but I kept my voice steady. I told him that I never thought he'd do something like this, that I considered him my brother, and now I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I told him how much it hurt, how betrayed I felt, and how I didn't know what I was going to do next. When I left that bar, I felt numb. All I could think about was Amanda, sitting at home, probably waiting for me to come back. I had no plan yet, just this overwhelming wave of heartbreak and anger. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay, but I also didn't want to lash out without thinking. I needed to approach this carefully, to figure out whether there was any hope for us or if I'd just been living in a fantasy. On the way home, I kept replaying everything. The moments of happiness, the anniversary dinner, the smiles, the plans we made, everything suddenly felt meaningless. I trusted her and she'd lied to my face, not just lying but actively cheating on me with someone I cared about deeply. My mind kept racing, trying to come up with a plan, any plan that might fix this or at least bring some closure. But deep down, I knew nothing would be the same again. The thought of facing her, of confronting her face to face, made my stomach churn. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to hold it together or if I would just break down and scream at her. So I walked into the house, heart pounding, and found her sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone like everything was normal. She looked up when I entered, and I saw that bitchy smirk on her face, like she knew she had the upper hand. I could feel my fists tightening, my mind racing with all the things I wanted to say. I was angry, betrayed, and honestly devastated. I wanted to rip her apart, but I also wanted to ask her why. Why did she think she could get away with this? Why did she lie? And most of all, how could she sit there like she hadn't just destroyed everything we had? I took a deep breath, trying to hold myself together. When I finally spoke, my voice was low but steady. Amanda, I know what you've been doing. I know about Mark. I saw the messages. Do you want to tell me why? Why you lied, why you cheated? She looked at me, her eyes narrowing. And then she started with that same bitchy tone, saying I was overreacting, that I was jealous, that she was just doing her job. But I wasn't buying any of it anymore. I saw through her lies, every word, every excuse. The woman I married, the woman I loved, turns out she was just a damn cheat, a liar, and a manipulator. And I was left standing there, feeling like I'd lost everything. The moment those words left my mouth, Amanda's face twisted into a sneer. She scoffed, rolling her eyes like I was some overreacting idiot. Oh, come on, Jake. You really think I'd do something like that? You're so paranoid, it's pathetic. Mark and we're just friends, okay? Just friends, you're blowing this out of proportion because you're insecure. Honestly, I don't know what you want from me. I've been working late, I've been stressed, and you're accusing me of cheating. That's just stupid. I stared at her, feeling my blood start to boil. Her words were so dismissive, so full of bullshit. She acted like I was crazy for even bringing it up. But I wasn't crazy. I saw the texts. I knew the truth. Amanda, I saw the messages, I said, voice trembling with anger. You were sending Mark flirtatious texts, talking about how much you want him, how good the sex is going to be when you're finally free to do whatever. Don't try to lie your way out of this. I know what's going on. She crossed her arms, her bitchy smirk turning into a defiant glare. Those messages, they're nothing. Just some stupid late-night jokes, a little flirtation. It doesn't mean anything. You're just insecure because I'm busy with work and I don't have time for your stupid jealous fits. Honestly, Jake, I don't see why you're making such a big deal out of it. It's not like I've slept with him or anything. My fists clenched, feeling the fury rising inside me. I could feel the heartbreak bubbling underneath, but I pushed it down. I was so sick and tired of her lies, her bullshit. I'd seen enough. She was a liar, a manipulator, and the woman I thought I knew was nothing but a facade. "You're lying," I said slowly, voice cold now. "You and Mark, you've been screwing around behind my back. That's why you've been so distant, so bitchy. You weren't working late, you were with him, and I saw the messages." She rolled her eyes again, scoffing. "You're crazy, Jake. You always jump to conclusions. You've always been insecure, jealous, needy, possessive. Maybe that's why I looked elsewhere. Maybe I was just looking for someone who actually cares about me, who gives me what I need. You were never enough." That hit me like a punch in the gut. Her words were venomous, cutting deeper than I thought possible. I stared at her, feeling like all the air had been knocked out of my lungs. I had trusted her, loved her, and now I was hearing how little I meant to her. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of betrayal, angry at myself for not seeing it sooner, angry at her for lying and for tearing everything apart. There was a long silence, filled only with the sound of my ragged breathing. I wanted to scream, to yell, to break something. But instead I just looked at her, trying to hold it all together. "You're a liar," I finally said, voice shaking but firm. "I don't know how long you've been cheating on me, but it's over. I want you out of this house. I want some space to think." She looked surprised, then angry, then defiant again. "Fine," she snapped, standing up. "If that's how you feel, I'll leave, but don't think for a second I'm sorry. This is all your fault anyway. You're the one who's too insecure. You're the one who pushed me away." As she stormed out of the room, I felt a strange mix of relief and despair. Relief that I finally knew the truth, but despair because I'd lost the woman I loved, the woman I'd trusted with everything. Everything, our marriage, our future, felt like it was crumbling right in front of me. I sat there on the couch, staring at the door she just walked through, feeling empty and broken. The betrayal was real, and I knew my life was never going to be the same again. After Amanda left, I just sat there for a while, feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train. My mind was racing in 100 different directions, trying to process what just happened. The betrayal hit me hard. I'd been blindsided by her words, her actions, everything. I kept replaying that moment when she told me I was insecure, that I was the problem, that I drove her to cheat. Honestly, I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach, but worse. I'd been betrayed by the woman I thought was my partner, my best friend. I knew I couldn't just sit there and do nothing. I had to figure out my next move. I couldn't trust her anymore, not after those messages, not after her lies. I decided I needed some space, some time to think about everything. So I packed a bag, grabbed my keys, and left the house for a few hours. I didn't want to be around her when she returned. I needed to clear my head, get some perspective. I drove around town aimlessly, trying to calm myself down. I went to a quiet park and sat on a bench, watching people walk by, trying to breathe through the chaos inside me. I kept thinking about how everything changed in an instant. One moment I was married, feeling secure, and the next I was questioning everything. Her fidelity, her honesty, the foundation of our entire life together. It was surreal. While I was sitting there, I kept asking myself if I should even confront her again or just cut my losses and move on. Part of me wanted to storm back into the house, scream at her, demand answers, maybe even shout some of the rage out. But another part, the calmer voice inside, told me I needed to think carefully before I did anything reckless. I had to be strategic. I couldn't just lash out of heartbreak. I needed to understand what I was really dealing with, how far this went, and what I truly wanted. I knew I had to face the reality that my entire marriage might be over. No matter how much I loved her, no matter how much I wanted to believe she'd change, the evidence was right there. She'd cheated, she'd lied, she'd betrayed me with my best friend, and I had no idea if I could ever forgive her or if I even wanted to. Right now, all I felt was this gut-wrenching emptiness, like something vital inside me had been ripped out. After a couple of hours, I finally decided I'd go back home, but I wasn't planning to pretend everything was okay. I was going to lay everything out on the table. I wanted answers, honest, unfiltered answers. I knew I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know the truth. The longer I stayed in denial, the more it would eat me up from the inside. So I took a deep breath, got into my car, and headed back to the house, ready to face whatever was waiting for me. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw her sitting on the porch, staring at her phone again. She looked up when she saw me, that same smug, bitchy expression on her face. I felt that old sting of rage bubble up again, but I kept my composure. I needed to be clear to be firm. I got out of the car, closed the door behind me, and looked her straight in the eyes. "Amanda," I said, voice steady but filled with pain, "we need to talk. I've thought about everything and I want the truth. No more lies. How long has this been going on? How long have you been cheating on me with Mark?" Her eyes flicked away for a second like she was trying to gather her lies, but I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I pressed harder. "Just tell me. I deserve that much." She hesitated for a moment, then looked at me with that same smug, bitchy expression she always wore when she thought she was in control. "You really want to know, Jake? Fine, it's been a couple of months," she said, crossing her arms. "Yeah, Mark and we've been seeing each other for a while, but it's not what you think. It's just sex, just a stupid affair that's over now. I don't see what the big deal is. You're overreacting like always." I felt a surge of rage. That's all she had. Just some meaningless sex. Just a few months of sneaking around behind my back, and she thought that somehow made everything okay. My fists clenched tightly, and I fought to keep my voice steady. "That's not what I saw in those messages. You were talking about how much you want him, how good the sex is going to be when you're finally free to do whatever you want. Don't lie to me, Amanda. I saw the proof." She rolled her eyes, scoffing. "God, you're so dramatic. It's just flirtation, Jake. You're so insecure. You always think the worst. Honestly, I don't even know why I stayed married to you this long. You're controlling, jealous, and needy. Mark knew I was married, sure, but that doesn't mean anything. It's just sex. It's not like I love him or anything." Her voice was full of contempt, like I was some pathetic fool for even doubting her. I felt my stomach twist in knots. She was lying so easily, so dismissively. It was like she didn't even realize how much she'd hurt me. I stared at her, trying to process how she could be so callous, so indifferent to the damage she'd caused. "You're lying," I said, voice trembling. "I know the truth, Amanda. You've been screwing around with him for months. You've been lying to my face, telling me you're working late or that you're stressed. And all this time I've been sitting here, trusting you, loving you, and you just lied to me." She let out a cruel laugh, shaking her head. "You're so naive, Jake. Honestly, I don't know how I ever married someone as clueless as you. You think I was just going to stay faithful forever? Please. I needed someone who actually cares about me, who makes me feel alive. You're so boring, so predictable. Mark gives me what you never could." That was the moment I realized this was more than just a fling. It was a full-on betrayal. She didn't even seem sorry, just angry at me for catching her. I kept my eyes locked on hers, trying to hold back the tears and the fury. "I trusted you," I managed to say. "I thought we had something real, and now I see I was just fooling myself. You're nothing but a cheat, Amanda, and I want you gone. I want you out of my life." She looked at me with that same disdainful smirk. "Fine," she said coldly. "If that's how you want it, I'm leaving. But don't come crawling back when you realize what you've lost. I don't need a jealous, insecure husband like you anyway." As she grabbed her purse and stormed past me towards the door, I felt a cold emptiness settle inside me. All the anger, pain, and heartbreak surged through me. I couldn't believe how easily she betrayed me, how little she cared about what she'd done. I knew my life was forever changed, but I also knew I couldn't stay silent. I had to make some decisions, what to do about everything I'd just uncovered, and how I'd rebuild my life from this mess she'd created. After Amanda left, I stood there in the doorway, feeling like I'd been hit with a sledgehammer. The house suddenly felt enormous and hollow, like a shell of a life I no longer recognized. I was overwhelmed by a mix of numbness, anger, and a deep sadness that wouldn't go away. I thought about everything, the years we'd spent together, the plans we made, the trust I had in her. All of it was gone in an instant, replaced by bitterness and regret. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just let this sit and fester. I started packing up her things, not out of spite, but because I realized that staying in the house wouldn't help anything. I needed space, time to breathe, to think, to figure out what my next step was. As I packed, I kept replaying everything she said, everything I saw and felt. Her words about how I was insecure, her dismissive attitude, those cut deeper than any physical pain could. She'd torn my heart to shreds, and I was left trying to pick up the pieces. Once she was gone, I sat alone in the silence of the house. I poured myself a drink, not to drown the pain but to give myself a moment to breathe. I finally allowed myself to feel the full weight of everything, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the anger. I realized that I had loved her more than I probably should have, and that her betrayal wasn't just about her cheating with Mark. It was about the trust I thought we shared, shattered into a million pieces. In the days that followed, I made a decision. I wasn't going to chase her, beg her to stay, or try to fix something that was already broken beyond repair. I knew I deserved better than someone who lied and cheated behind my back. I decided to focus on myself, to rebuild, to find happiness again, even if it meant starting over from scratch. I cut contact with Amanda completely. I blocked her number, her social media, everything. I couldn't let her poison my mind or hold me back anymore. I also reached out to my friends, those who knew us both. I told them everything. Some were furious with Amanda, others just offered support. The truth is, I felt relief in finally telling someone, having that weight lifted off my chest. I let myself cry when I needed to, but I also made a promise to myself. I would get through this, stronger and wiser. I learned that trust can be broken in a second, but that I had the power to rebuild my life piece by piece. Looking back now, I realize that betrayal teaches you some hard lessons. It's about recognizing your worth, setting boundaries, and understanding that sometimes love isn't enough to keep a relationship afloat. Amanda's actions showed me who she really was, and I refuse to be her victim anymore. I've started to focus on my own happiness, on healing, and on finding someone who truly values me, not just someone who takes me for granted. So, for anyone out there going through something similar, here's what I've learned. Trust is fragile and betrayal cuts deep, but you're stronger than you think. Allow yourself to feel everything, anger, sadness, relief, and then use that pain to grow. Don't let anyone make you feel small or unworthy. Stand up, walk away if you have to, and never settle for less than you deserve. Because in the end, the only person you truly owe loyalty to is yourself.